Today's target will be systems of inequalities. By the end of today's lesson, you'll be able to graph a system of inequalities, making sure to shade in the correct area. You'll be able to identify points that are solutions to a system of inequalities. Similar to systems of equations, this is going to build off of what we did in the previous unit when we graphed inequalities. Once again, similar to systems of equations, a system of inequalities is when we have more than one inequality. So here we've got two different inequalities. So what we're going to do is we're going to graph them both, and we're going to look at where we shade for each one of them, and finally, where does that shading overlap? So let's start by graphing the first one. I'm going to graph this one in blue. So we're at -1 at our start. We're going to go up 3 and over 4. Oops, that is not correct. That is up 2 over 4, so we go up 3 over 4. Go in the opposite direction, we're going to go down 3 and over 4 as well. Now when you graph these, it's important to take your line all the way across the graph. So here we've got less than or equal to, so we're going to have a solid line. So we're going to take this line and we're going to extend it both ways all the way across the graph to basically cut the graph in half. Now my line's not perfect, but hopefully you have a straight edge so your line looks a little bit better. Make sure it goes both ways all the way across the graph. Now we're going to use a test point, much like we did with the previous unit. We're going to test the point 0, 0. So if we plug 0 in for y and 0 in for x, we get 0 is less than -1. This, of course, is false. So because this is false, we're going to shade the side that does not have the point 0, 0. So I'm not going to totally shade this in. I'm just going to mark it with horizontal lines. So there's our first equation. Now I'm going to graph the second one. I'm going to graph this one in red. So we're going to start at a +4. We're going to go down 1 and right 2. And then we also go the opposite direction. Here we've got just greater than, so we're going to have a dotted line. Once again, we want to take that dotted line all the way across the graph. Once again, we're going to use the test point 0, 0. So you've got 0 is greater than a +4. That once again is false. So because it is false, we shade the side that does not have 0, 0. So we're going to shade up here. Shade these with vertical lines. So hopefully what we've noticed now is that we've cut the graph into 4 sections. The first section is blank. That means this section contains solutions to none of the equations. The second section is only colored in red. So that means that contains solutions to the second equation and the second equation, or inequality, only. This third area down here only shaded in blue. So that means that contains solutions only to the first inequality. And then lastly, section number 4, this contains solutions to both inequalities. So this is the area here that we're going to go through and we're actually going to shade in, because this is the solution, this is the area that contains solutions to both inequalities. So with a system of inequalities, we're looking for a shaded region, not a specific answer. That shaded region contains all possible solutions. So for example, one solution here would be the point, I know it's tough to see, that point right there would be the point 8, comma 3. So 8, comma 3 is a solution. Another point we could pick could be right here. So that would be the point 10, comma 5. That is a solution. Any point you were to pick within that shaded region would be a solution to the inequality. Only points within that region. So when you answer a question like this on a test or a quiz, you don't need to list possible solutions. You don't need to list any of the ordered pairs. All I'm looking for is that the correct section of the graph is shaded. So here I'm making sure that this fourth section over here is all shaded in because that represents the solution to both inequalities. Now it's your turn. So a short video, I do one example, you do one example. So I want you to graph both of these inequalities, and I want you to shade in the region that satisfies both inequalities. So pause the video now. Here's your solution. The line in blue is the first inequality. Our test point there was false. 0, 0 was not a solution, so we shaded above the line, marked in blue with the blue vertical lines. The line in red was the second equation. Make sure we had strictly less than, so it was a dotted line. Once again, the test point was false, so it did not include the point 0, 0. So we shaded below the line using the red horizontal marks. And then we're going to shade in, completely shade in, this region right here that contains solutions to both inequalities. All right, before we go, I want to take 1 second to backtrack and make a correction. Nope, just kidding. All right, make sure you've got your notes. Make sure you come to class tomorrow ready to go.